So we are at CG Premier. You guys are in the construction room. A lot of fix and flippers out there. Who's a fix and flipper or doing fix and flips? All right. So you guys are in CG Premier. You guys have probably never ever lost money on a fix and flip, right? But let's hypothetically say you have a friend or maybe you know a new person getting into real estate and you want to educate them on the risk of fix and flips. Give me a couple. What are some like inherent risks of fix and flips? To kick it off here, who's got one? So you can shout it out. What makes fixing and flipping? Market changes. What's another inherent risk of fixing and flipping? Crews, yep. Walking off. Yes, not knowing what you're going to walk into. All very important things. Guys, I want to hammer that home. Inherently, I think of all the things we do in real estate, fix and flipping can be one of the riskiest things we do, but the Revive method is designed to mitigate almost all of that risk. So hang with me, guys. I'm going to show you guys how we mitigate that. All right. A little bit about my background is, you guys will see, actually, ironically, I joined CG 3 years ago, which was literally the week after I left my W-2 job. So I was a petroleum engineer working for Shell for 11 years and then joined CG. But during those 11 years, I built out our vertically integrated company from direct to seller, that's Wyoming Houses, our company, to property management. We do all that in-house. We're managing, actually with our stuff we're closing this month, up to right around 400 units. And then in-house construction. That's probably been one of the biggest game changers is what we're doing right now. And we're all doing it virtual. And we roll this all up, and the way we fund a lot of it is through my fund, Bighorn Capital Fund. So that's a little bit about my background, and you guys will see why this strategy has become essential. So let's rewind the tape too. When I first started CG 3 years ago, it was a little bit after that, and some of you guys have been around for a while. Remember when interest rates started climbing and CG held that all hands on deck call? Who remembers that call, right? And everybody's talking, hey, you need to consolidate, hoard your cash, get lean, right? I remember that call vividly. And I remember thinking, man, I'm really starting to get momentum. I just left my W-2 job and I'm doing a lot of marketing. I want to keep doing deals, right? But I'm also looking at what everyone, like these guys that are way high level, what they're doing. So yeah, I was a little bit scared. What was going to happen in the market, right? And guys, and that is super relevant even today, right? Who still feels like a little bit of uncertainty in the market right now? So I started it back then. That's where this was really birthed, was how can I still keep fixing and flipping without all of the risks, okay? Second thing was, when I'm fixing and flipping, I've always wanted to have two exit strategies. So in our markets, and I know you can't do this everywhere, which is gonna tee this up perfectly, but I always like to have a second exit strategy when I fix and flip to where I could keep the property as a rental, right? But not all properties you can hold as a rental property. They're just not gonna make sense, but they're still a great fix and flip candidate. So that was another reason why I wanted to still be able to do those deals and mitigate my risk. The third one was novations, right? We were doing a lot of different novations, but I kept getting all these deals that required more work. And I wanted to put more money into that property to get that full price, but I didn't want to protect myself with just a novation contract. So this is what became of the Revive method, okay? So in a nutshell, really quickly, we are going to take over the seller's mortgage, or if it's free and clear, that works as well. We're going to come in and we're going to renovate the property. I'm going to pay for that, or use a private money lender, right? And then we're going to sell the property on the back end. And when we sell it, that's when we're going to split the profits with the seller. This is super relevant as well right now with everything happening across the country with legislations when it comes to wholesaling, right? A lot can maybe said, or a lot of people would argue that wholesaling is not a true win for everyone, right? What I love about this strategy is everyone is winning. The seller wins, right? The way we structure this, we're actually going to pay that seller more money on the back end. We're going to be a lot more competitive than that cash offer, right? You guys are going to see that throughout my presentation, how the seller feels like they're winning. Secondly, your private money lender. When you underwrite these deals, the way they're structured, often your loan to value is going to be like my minimum's 70%, but typically they're 50%. Sometimes they're lower. So your lender is going to love these deals. I actually use small banks to finance 100% of these at times. So I'm able to borrow at like 7%, and my banks love it because they're well protected, all right? Third winner is the real estate agent, whether that's you or somebody on your team, or in my case, these are my boots on the ground people that I want to keep giving deal flow. They get to list the house at a higher price point. And what's really cool, and a really cool hack when you do this strategy, is I tell real estate agents I meet all the time, this is what I tell them. I say, hey, if you find a property that you know needs work, or you know that you can't get conventional offers on because it won't qualify for financing, bring me those deals because I want to fix them up and I want to pay your seller more money, and then I want you to list that property. And you're not going to have to list it at a fire sale price to get it done without financing. We're going to list this thing at full market value. So all those people are winning, all right? And most importantly, or maybe depending how you look at it, we as investors are going to win because we're going to mitigate all those risks that we first talked about, okay? So to hammer this home kind of step by step, again, I mentioned we're taking over the seller's loan. Step one, we're closing and doing that, okay? Step two is we are transferring the deed. Very, very, very important. When we close this transaction, we are going to transfer the deed into our name, all right? Now at that point we've closed, we go renovate the property. Once it's all done, we go list it on the market, get it sold, and then our seller gets paid the profit share on the back end, okay? But that profit share is defined from the very start. And I'll show you guys some of the numbers here in a second. Now, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, are really good at novations. I know this is a big part of our business, right? It's such a powerful strategy, right? But the key difference here between a novation and the revive method, one of the biggest ones is the changing of the deed, right? When you do a revive method, we're gonna change the deed. Because the question I'm sure some of you guys have asked yourselves, I know I've asked it to myself, is at what point, how much money am I willing to put on a novation contract? How much money do I want to put in that property, right? How much money do I want to give that seller? What is your threshold, right? Mine was around $10,000. If I'm putting more than $10,000 into this deal to help get it sold, like that was my threshold where like, I don't want to depend upon a novation contract, because if your seller doesn't perform on a novation contract, guess how you remedy that? You have to sue him, right? For performance. No one wants to do that, right? On the revive method, we're changing the deed so we are now in control. So very, very important distinction there, okay? Now the other piece of innovation is, what if you are comfortable putting in $10,000 or $20,000 on it and you want to finance that piece? Is there any way to actually properly secure that? No, you can't. There's no way to securitize a novation agreement if you want to fund it. But as I just mentioned on these ones, we're transferring the deed. So now, guess what? We can go if it's free and clear, my lender gets a first position lien. If we're taking over a loan sub 2 from JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, now my PML is in second position because I'm now on the deed, okay? Very important difference. Now, let's talk about the buy box. Where does this fit? In what scenarios, okay? Number one is your seller needs to have equity, okay? I typically like to see, easy rule of thumb is 50%, but we can go up a little bit higher than that. But if their loan to what the ARV is 50%, it typically will work, okay? Number two is value add. There's gotta be something that we can do to this house to improve it and actually increase the value. Otherwise, we're not really bringing much value to that seller, right? Number three, they got to have a little bit of time, okay? They got to be able to go somewhere, right? One of our biggest lessons from this strategy is no longer do we allow this, actually we've only done it once, but we don't allow the sellers to stay in the house, right? So they got to have a little bit of time. So this won't work on your seller that has got to sell this house so he can move into the other one, and he's got to finance it all, he needs all the money now. So this might seem that, oh man, Casey, this is you got to hit all three of those. That sounds like a unique deal. But you guys, I think you'd be surprised. Think about your market. Think about, especially in those of you who are in a market that's appreciated significantly in the last even 5 years. Think about all those houses that now have equity, right? And think about how many of those houses where people don't keep up with repairs and there's value add potential. I'm telling you, I see this all the time, and it's a big buy box. There's a ton of deals that will fit this. Now, how to run the numbers, all right? I want to give you guys the quick math on this. It's really simple. We're just going to take what they owe on the property plus the rehab and divide that by our ARV. All right, you guys are probably used to this, right? So if I say if we're less than 70%, it's a go, right? But what I find is the majority of our deals, we're like way under 70%. I mean, think of it as free and clear. If it's free and clear, all you're looking at is your rehab divided by your ARV. It's always going to work in a free and clear situation. But a lot of situations where they have a loan, it will also work. Now, where do we do this? We operate virtually. I live in Houston, Texas, and my COO lives in Dallas-Fort Worth, but the majority of our deals are up in Wyoming. They're up in Montana, these surrounding areas. And the way we're able to do this is our structure is, my project manager manages the team leads, all right? These little heat maps, these are 3 different crews that I have working across Wyoming. So each one of these crews is led by a team lead, right? They have their guys, they report to my COO or my project manager, and that's how we manage that. The other key person on our team is our real estate agent, right? They're the ones that are gonna list that fix and flip. They're gonna be our boots on the ground. They're gonna help us pick finishes. They're my local expert that's gonna tell me how do we make sure this house is marketable and we can get it sold. So that's how we're able to do this long distance. And what I love about the Revive method is this is now allowing us to scale across the country. Because now I can go into another market and I don't have to be perfect on my rehab. I don't have to be perfect on knowing what's behind the walls, right? I don't have to be perfect on knowing that, because you're gonna have to go find a team in a new market. And so, for example, if I'm gonna go to Tallahassee, Florida, I wanna find a great GC and I wanna find a great agent, right? And I'm gonna vet them and I'm gonna do my best, but inherently, if I'm in a new market, there's gonna be risk. But when I structure my deals using the Revive method, it allows me more margin for error. Now let's talk a quick case study to drive this home. So this is with Mary, I'll never forget it. And a little bit of background on this one. I asked my team, our Revive construction crew, I'm like, guys, what's your favorite deal? And this was their favorite one. So this is in Cody, Wyoming, right outside Yellowstone National Park. All right, this was Mary. So Mary came to us through a direct-to-seller lead. And I remember I worked this deal myself. And as I'm talking to Mary, she owes $200,000 on her house, but this house is a mess, right? She inherited it from her parents, needs a ton of work, right? Now we're also in a market in Cody where there's not a whole lot of contractors. So she wants to fix it. She wants to realize some of her equity that she inherited, but she, A, doesn't have the money, and even if she did, she's got to find the contractors, and she's going to wait a long time. Even if she can find the contractor, she's going to be waiting on their schedule. So I presented this to Mary. I'm like, Mary, we can do this deal. Let me take over your loan, all right? We're gonna put $80,000 into it, okay? And then so what ended up happening is we did that, we fixed it all up, and we sold this house for $500,000, right? When we sold that for $500,000, I ended up giving Mary $120,000, so she made a total of $320,000. Now moving backward, when Mary was first looking at this and getting other offers, her cash offers were probably around $250,000. With that large of a scope, right? And she didn't want to settle for $250,000. I'm like, Mary, here's your path to getting $320,000, all right? Or I gave her a range, okay? So that's how it worked out good. And guys, we made $70,000, $80,000 on that. But think about this. Think about our risk on that deal. So when we went to sell that house, there was $200,000 owed, and after that, I structured to where we got paid next. So the total, say, debt or my break even on that property was around like $300,000, even with agent commissions and holding costs, right? So we sold it for $500,000. I had $200,000 of cushion to mess up, right? To not know what's behind the wall, to have my contractors not show up, to have the market correct on me. See how we're building that huge margin? I talk about the win-win with the sellers. One of my favorite parts was bringing Mary back through that house when it's done. And we do this every time. We bring them back through the house, let them get to see it, let them see that transformation. Because these home sellers, they've been picturing this in their mind. They've been dreaming about fixing up this house, right? And when you get to walk them back through that house, it's really special, and we get the best testimonials, which helps it compound, right? So now I've got all these testimonials so they can go talk to other people who did this strategy. Because some of you guys might be asking, and I see some of your wheels spinning, you're probably thinking, wow, okay, I think I'm tracking. This is a new strategy, but how are you gonna present this to a seller and get them on board? This sounds like a confused mind doesn't buy, and they probably aren't gonna sell. So it's all about how you present it. So this is my little spreadsheet I share with every seller, okay? So if you look up here, I want you guys to look at the sales price, okay? See the sales price line, $260,000 all the way over to $320,000, all right? This is the variable, the biggest variable that will change when we're structuring this deal. And that's what I tell the seller. I'm like, I can know pretty much all of our costs within reason, but I don't know our sales price. But this is where it gets fun to like selling the deal, okay? Because when you guys are talking to a home seller, they all know their house is the best on the block. They know it's worth, like when I go tell them, hey Mary, your house is worth $320,000. I mean, do you think the house could sell for $320,000? She goes, absolutely, my neighbors did. Like they believe in that number. So then as I work them down to this line highlighted in green. That's the amount of money that they're gonna get on the back end. All right, now this isn't Mary's example, it's a different one. But I can get the seller excited about that final number, all right? And that's what I want them to focus on, because I'm gonna help them get there. And again, I'm not gonna mislead them. I tell them, hey, there's all these scenarios. There's no guarantees that we sell this for what we think we do. But I want her to see the upside and she'll believe in it. Because guys, the best part and where I lock in our profit, which I haven't even mentioned yet, is up here on the rehab part. So on the rehab budget, I budgeted $127,000. This is a fixed number I do on every deal, or it's fixed before we move forward, okay? But I build in my goals, guys, personally, I try to build in at least $50,000 of profit into every single rehab, okay? Now that might seem like a lot, and it's not gonna be, so this is not gonna be as good if you got like an easy $10,000 cosmetic flip, and then you mark it up to 60, you're gonna probably have some pushback, all right? But on this one, where you're at, so our cost was about $77,000, and I mark it up to $127,000, right? And I'm just full disclosure, I say, hey, my cost to do this deal is $127,000. I'm not gonna go over that, and I'm gonna move quick. Because the other cool thing about this strategy is I tell the seller, we're on the same team, right? I don't get paid anything until we both sell this house. And unlike, because let's say hypothetically they had the money and they were gonna go fix up the house themselves, now they gotta go find a contractor and they gotta get on their schedule. I'm like, no, these are my contractors or my GC. We're gonna move fast because we both get paid at the same time. So I can really get them excited about, but at the end of the day, I keep coming back to the final number. I'm like, because some people will push back on the rehab, but again, I refocus them on, hey, we're focused on how much money you can make on the back end, okay? So how to move forward, go 0 to 1. So step 1, if you're gonna do one of these deals, and I want you guys to think about in your market, what deals would qualify for this type of structure, okay? So think about the deal, run it quickly through the calculator. I've got a red light, green light deal, and you'll know, hey, all right, it's good to go. Step 2, we put together just a simple 1-page LOI, all right? The LOI goes over that little table. I'll screenshot it and I'll talk about what they can expect next. So once they review the LOI, we get some of their feedback, we go back and forth a little bit, and there's always a little bit of tweak here and there, right? But once we get that, now we're ready to sell a purchase contract. Now we're underway and doing a revive method, okay? So this QR code, guys, was my big give to you. This is gonna have that little calculator I shared with you. It's gonna have our LOI templates. It's gonna have a ton of different resources for you to go check out. So I encourage you to scan that, because some of you guys are gonna be ready to take this and run with it and go. But again, disclaimer, and I wanna use guys to be careful, right? I've reviewed all these contracts that I'm using, and I'll share them with you in that folder. I can add them in there with you, or for you. But I've reviewed all these contracts with my attorneys, and they're state specific. So you do wanna make sure you know what you're doing in your state, okay? But guys, I understand that not everybody has, and you guys might have this, but right now, kind of going all the way back to the beginning of the presentation, I talked about we do in-house construction. We find our own deals, right? If you guys maybe don't have all those variables or feel confident enough, I would encourage you to still reach out on that same QR code. You could still scan it, right? And you can also reach out to me on my social media. I'd love to connect with you guys there. But if you guys just want to partner on the first deal, or even just bring me a deal and say, hey, Casey, would this one fit for the revive method? Would it work? I encourage you guys, bring those deals to me. I'd love to underwrite it. If we need to partner on the first one for you guys to get comfortable, more than happy. But either way, guys, back to the beginning, we can all agree fixing and flipping is inherently risky, but I want you guys to move past that, all right? I don't want you guys to be concerned about what's happening in the market. I want you guys to be able to keep taking deals down. I want you to be able to open up your buy box using the revive method.